The Rolex Submariner, quite possibly the most recognisable watch by the most well-known brand in the world. It's peerless. It's timeless. Nothing compares to what it has done for the watch world since its initial release in 1954, bringing along with it so many innovations throughout the decades. Now, as much as I and probably you desperately want one, the chances of you getting your hands on one are practically impossible. You have to be very fortunate to be able to buy one straight from an authorised dealer, or alternatively you have to pay through the nose, sometimes double the RRP to buy one secondhand. Despite them being rarer than a unicorn, it doesn't stop me from yearning after one. That's why I've collated 5 awesome Rolex Submariner alternatives from a variety of budgets. Now, they're not all homages, which is basically a like-for-like copy but with a different logo on it. But they do need to meet these following guidelines. Number 1, they need to be readily available, because after all, there's no point in replacing a Rolex Sub with another equally unobtainable watch. Number 2, they need to be versatile. The Rolex Submariner looks great no matter what, whether it's in a suit, in the sea, or casually. Number 3, it needs to have a rotating bezel with a bezel insert, because this is one of the most recognisable parts of the Rolex Sub. Number 4, it needs to be able to be used as a dive watch, because this is what the Sub is at heart, a dive watch. And finally, number 5, ideally it needs to be Swiss made with a mechanical movement, but obviously this is very much budget dependent. So without further ado, let's check out some watches. We have 5 awesome options here, ranging from £189 all the way to £1,520. Really, we have something for everyone at all budgets. Notably, all come in at a fraction of the price of a Submariner. So let's start off with our first watch, the Rotary GMT. This is our cheapest option, currently available for £189. Now, the serious watch enthusiasts among you might look at it and say, well, actually, technically, this is a homage to the Rolex GMT Master 2. But in reality, that watch is practically a sub, but with the GMT function and the Pepsi bezel insert. Now, it ticks all of our criteria apart from it being Swiss made and having a mechanical movement. But it does have some really great specs for the price. First of all, it has a sapphire crystal, it's water resistant to 100 meters, and it has that really cool GMT function. And with the GMT function, it basically means the GMT hand rotates around the dial once every 24 hours, or at half speed. And when you use it in conjunction with the GMT bezel insert, it allows you to tell the time in a second time zone. Now, that's really good if you travel a lot or if you work with people in a different time zone. The dial itself has a really lovely glossy base, which really does catch your eye, and that works in conjunction with the bold hands and also the applied hour markers. When you look at the case profile itself, you'll see it's very, very shapely. It really does catch the eye when you're wearing it. With an RRP of £235, but being available right now for £189, it really is a great, solid alternative to the Rolex Submariner. Let me just pop on the Rotary, and as you can see, it has a butterfly clasp, very easy to put on. Nice and solid and dependable as well. We have a polished center link flanked by 2 brushed links, very eye-catching, and as you can see, it just wears really well. Now on to watch number 2. The Seiko 5 sports range has been incredibly popular since its release in 2019. That's due to a number of reasons. They look great, they have such awesome specs, and the build quality is amazing for the price. These watches actually replace the timeless Seiko SKX007, quite possibly one of the greatest affordable dive watches in history. Now, the great news is that they also pass as a affordable Rolex Submariner alternative. If you look at it, it ticks all of the right boxes. 100 meters water resistance, Seiko's own automatic movement, the 4R36, very highly regarded as being extremely solid and dependable. And this is expertly displayed by means of the exhibition caseback. This new movement is basically an upgrade of that original movement found in the Seiko SKX007 because it adds the added functionality of a hand wind function and also a hacking seconds hand. When you look at the dial design, it has that distinctive handset borrowed from the SKX007. The Seiko loom, let me tell you, it's like nothing else as well. This thing glows brightly in the dark. When you look at the bezel itself and the profile of the case, this thing is so well finished as well. Just using the bezel is an absolute joy to use. Just listening to that click, it's so silky smooth as well. Really is made to be used. This is a proper utility watch. Now this is a solid watch in its own right, but if you want a modern remake of a cult classic, this could possibly be the watch for you. Now just popping on the Seiko 5, this is on one of the NATO strap options in a variety of colours, but on top of NATO strap options, you also have the ability to select a bracelet. Now the NATO strap is so comfortable to wear, you can barely tell you've got it on. It's also completely waterproof as well, so you can easily get this wet and not be bothered at all about it. It also produces this really cool, casual kind of style and look to the watch itself as well. Now within this watch is Seiko's own 4R36 movement. That's a mechanical movement with automatic and hand winding functionality. Now on to watch number 3. Now if you're after a watch that's the spitting image of the Rolex Submariner, look no further than the Davosa Ternos. The price is £695, but this watch is spec'd up to the eyeballs. It's Swiss made, it has 200 meters water resistance, a glossy ceramic bezel insert, it has Superluminova BGW09 loom. That's some of the strongest stuff available. It really does glow bright. Powering this watch is the Davosa DAV3021, which is based upon another very highly regarded Swiss automatic mechanical movement. And finally, sitting on top of the case is a sapphire crystal, practically scratch resistant, very highly durable. Really, looking at it, there's not a single thing you can knock about this watch. Now popping it on, you'll notice that the 40mm diameter is the perfect size, and this is actually the same as the original Rolex Submariners because their very latest iterations are 41mm in diameter. Really does fit so well and it looks so good on the wrist, especially with a suit, as you'd expect from a Submariner homage. We also have a glossy ceramic bezel insert within the 120 click unidirectional bezel, and the glossiness just catches the light so well. It looks far more luxurious than the price tag suggests. Really, as soon as you put this watch on, you get that incredible versatility of the Rolex Submariner, because after all, this is a perfect homage to that incredible timeless watch. For £695, this is an incredible amount of watch for the money. And if you're after that distinctive Submariner style, this is the watch for you. Let's move on to watch number 4. This is the Certina DS Action Powermatic 80. Now at £725, this watch has a key trick up its sleeve: the incredible movement. Now whilst the Powermatic 80.111 might sound like something from Robocop, it's actually a mechanical movement produced by Tissot. It has a whopping power reserve of 80 hours, and that's double the power reserve of the mechanical movements found in these other watches. This watch is of course Swiss made as well, and at £725, what you're getting is pretty outstanding. Now visually, it's slightly more sporty and less dressy than the Submariner, but if you're after something a little bit different and love geeking out over special movements, this is definitely a watch for you. The water resistance of our watch is a pretty impressive 300 meters, and that's actually the same as the Rolex Submariner itself, so you can definitely take it diving. Especially considering the clasp has a very cool diver's extension, allowing you to just extend the bracelet, allowing you to fit it over your wetsuit. The dial is loaded with Superluminova loom, which is one of the strongest looms available, glows very bright in the dark, so legibility is excellent. Now the size of this watch is slightly on the larger side. It comes in at 43mm in diameter. This is a watch that demands attention and has loads of wrist presence. Now the build quality on this thing, as you'd expect for a watch costing £725, is brilliant. I really like the angles and facets on the bezel insert. It allows you to easily use and rotate this bezel. I'm not sure if you can hear that, but the sound of this bezel action is so satisfying, and to use it, it is butterly smooth. Such a delight to use. It also has a glossy backdrop to the dial, again catching the light really nicely. It does have a luxurious aura over this watch as you're viewing it. We have really bold, distinctive hands and hour markers, adding to the legibility of the dial itself. Now, having a look at the bracelet itself, it's fully brushed, so that actually will be more scratch resistant than any polished accents, aids to the longevity of the watch. And also moving on to the buckle itself, really good and secure and solid deployant clasp on here. So the Certina DS Action Powermatic 80 is another sensational alternative to the Rolex Submariner. Finally, on to watch number 5, the Oris Aquis. Now, the Oris Aquis is a serious contender for the best affordable luxury watch, hands down, but it also puts in a solid case as being a great alternative to the Rolex Submariner. It meets all those 5 requirements easily, but it has its own awesome distinctive design. It matches the Certina as the best water resistance of the lot, and matching the sub at 300 meters, it's also the same size as the Certina at 43 millimeters in diameter. It is the most expensive watch out of the bunch, coming in at 1,520, but let me tell you, this watch is on a whole other level. The difference in quality is so evident when you look at it in comparison to the other watches. The movement found within is the Oris 733, which is basically a Sellita SW200-1, a great movement in its own right, but Oris have added their own orange custom rotor to it. It looks great, and you can see it so well through the exhibition caseback. It features an eye-catching glossy ceramic bezel insert, just as the Davosa does, but I really love the orange accents on this watch. It makes it so much more eye-catching and increases its visual appeal. So you can tell when you've got this watch in the hand, the general fit and finish from top to bottom is just unbelievable build quality, and for the price, it really is a staggering amount of watch. One thing that's very subtle, which I really love, is a very gentle sunburst effect in the center of the dial. When that catches the light just right, it really does provide a lovely splash of sunburst effect. This is a really weighty watch as well. Now, it's not so heavy so that it's uncomfortable to wear, but it's heavy enough to let you know that this is a really solid timepiece. Now, as we've done with all the other watches, we might as well test out the bezel action. Now, if you can hear that, very satisfying loud clicks and really silky smooth to use. It also lines up absolutely perfect, as you would expect on a watch costing this much. Finally, moving on to the bracelet, really solid construction. These links have a wide brushed central link flanked by polished sides. Just be careful they don't get scratched up too much, but again, the polished accents really make for a really eye-catching piece. Flipping it over to the clasp, it's a deployant clasp, and just like the Certina, it actually features a diver's extension. This watch is made for diving. This watch is near perfect in every regard. Bold, handsome design, impressive build quality, excellent specs. Really, you can't go wrong with this watch as a Rolex Submariner alternative. So, that's it. That's my 5 picks. Now, bearing in mind that the Rolex Submariner currently has an RRP of £6,450, which one would I choose? Well, if you wanted something that was like for like, the Davosa Ternos is the perfect choice. Coming in at £695, it's just slightly over 10% of the RRP of a Rolex Submariner. You can't go wrong with that. Otherwise, it's got to be the Oris Aquis. This is the highest quality timepiece here. It's an amazing watch in its own right, and it will last you years and years. So, that's it. They're my 5 choices. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and also comment below your thoughts on my picks, and also what you think is a great Rolex Submariner alternative. Links will be in the description below for you to be able to buy all of these watches and many more at WatchShop.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.